Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Invest in Brazil Infrastructure Ports Edition, held by
各位女
APEC
士、各位先生，欢迎来到巴西出口贸促会所举办的港务基础建设研讨。
to the Brazilian Development Bank, the Brazilian Association of Infrastructure and Basic Industries, and the Association of Private Port Terminals. I am Roberto Scotto, head of the investment department at Apex Brazil, and I'm going to be the presenter of this event. This is the final chapter in a series of 5 digital events on infrastructure held this year. The purpose of today's event is to highlight the high quality and potential of ports projects in Brazil, in addition to presenting the advances made in Brazilian legislation and detailing the infrastructure opportunities that are open to private capital in the country. The transmission will be in English with simultaneous translation to Mandarin. If you have questions, please send them to our Zoom chat or to the following email, ibi@apexbrazil.com.br. In today's event, we'll have the participation of important people, such as the National Secretary of Ports, Diogo Piloni, the Superintendent of the National Development Bank Investment Partnership Structuring Division, Cleverson Arueira, the General Coordinator of Port Lease Modeling at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Disney Barroca, the Deputy Coordinator of the ABDIB Port Committee, José Castro, and the CEO of the Association of Private Port Terminals, Murilo Barbosa. In addition, we will have the Program Director of the Transportation Coordination Secretariat, Ana Salles, the CEO of Santos Port Authority, Fernando Biral, the CEO of Porto Central, José Maria, the Director of Oil and Gas at Porto do Açu, Ricardo De Luca, the Executive Director of Grão-Pará Multimodal, Paulo Salvador, the Director at Alemoa, Co-Leader Alemoa Port Terminal, Lourenço Santos, and the Head of Commercial Department at Imetame Logística, Anderson Carvalho. Now, for the opening remarks, I invite the President of Apex Brazil, Sérgio Segovia.
Thank you, Roberto Scotto. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to open the 5th and last edition of the Invest in Brazil Infrastructure webinars. The first 4 editions were a remarkable success along with investors' audience from 5 countries so far. Therefore, to Mr. Diogo Piloni, our Ports National Secretary, and Admiral Murilo Barbosa, President of ATP, and the other speakers mentioned before. To conclude this journey, Apex Brazil, in partnership with the Ministry of Infrastructure, addresses why the timing is right.
出口贸促会和巴西的基础建设
有合作关系，协助港口是我们目前最重要的发展项目之一。关于现在的经济复苏以及巴西未来的经济发展，都是
into atractive opportunities for foreign investors in Brazil. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, maritime transport represents 8% of international commerce. In Brazil, approximately 95% of all foreign trade are done by sea. With a gross domestic product of $1.84 trillion, Brazil is the 9th biggest economy in the world and the first in Latin America. As a challenging year, as this has proven to be, the Brazilian economy is recovering at a faster pace than initially expected. Not only the predictions for economic growth are being revised upwards for the current year, but also for the next 2 years, as the economic agents develop more optimistic beliefs toward the future. While export will also return to growth, Brazil is an important global commodity exporter and consequently a relevant part of the port infrastructure in the country is related to agricultural and mineral production and to oil and gas import and exports. Brazil is one of the top world agribusiness exporters, and its exports have surpassed imports in $42 billion in 2020, proving that as a major player in international trade, Brazil is also being a key supplier for countries worldwide. Data from the Ministry of Agriculture mention another historical record in grain production this year. Therefore, to align with the future requirements and the pressure of the infrastructure sector, Brazilian ports urge private investments to serve rising demand through the following years. Also, it is the right time that Brazil favors regulatory changes, a clear signal for a better environment for private investment in port infrastructure. Today, we will highlight the outstanding opportunities arising in Brazil's port infrastructure investments, with a portfolio of over $2 billion in projects that represent concrete opportunities for the allocation of private assets in the next months and the following years. I'm proud to present the work of the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Apex Brazil, in the attraction of foreign investments to Brazil. Despite the current global emergency, the agency was directly responsible for this far in 2020 for facilitating $4.07 billion in investments in Brazil. Our mission is to increasingly encourage investors to discover the opportunities offered by Brazil, covering all their needs and offering support, accurate connections with public and private players, as well as providing precise and quality information. Brazil is huge in size, in population, and in opportunities for investments, and it is vital to highlight some information about the country. According to an index produced by the US consultancy firm A.T. Kearney, released last June 2020, Brazil is again on the list of the 25 most reliable countries for foreign direct investments, FDI. Only 3 emerging markets are on that list: China, the United Arab Emirates, and Brazil. 2 factors have mainly boosted this confidence in Brazil: regulatory and structural reforms and the Brazilian government's efforts to expand privatizations and concessions. This recognition allows us to stay optimistic, even in the face of the pandemic situation. Similarly, we are aware of the domestic scenario as well as the global context. UNCTAD and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development have forecast a reduction of up 40% in worldwide FDI, which since 2005 has been above $1 trillion. In Brazil, the central bank estimates a drop of 29.2% of FDI. This is from $72 billion in 2019 to $51 billion in 2020. However, we rely on history. The country has prevailed over all other previous crises and has managed to keep growing steadily. Brazilian institutions show high resilience to cope with challenges. In fact, these are challenging times, but the maintenance of international investment flows is crucial for global economies. To conclude my remarks, I'd like to point out that foreign investors attending this event can undoubtedly expect to benefit from substantial new opportunities in Brazil in the coming years. There is a need more than ever to be ahead of time. Keep in mind that Apex Brazil is at your service for any need you may have for safely land in the country. Please try to access our bulletin with regulatory information on infrastructure, ports, agribusiness, renewable energy, health, and other sectors. The publication is monthly available in English on our website. Our doors are open to facilitate your investment in Brazil. Invest with confidence, invest with Apex Brazil. Thank you very much and have a great webinar.
Thank you very much, President Segovia, particularly for highlighting the role of Apex, not only in promoting, but facilitating foreign investments to Brazil. And now to offer an overview of Brazilian ports and their opportunities for foreign investment, we will connect to the National Secretary of Ports, Mr. Diogo Piloni.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say first thanks to President Segovia for the invitation to come here and to represent Minister of Infrastructure and to present some of our finest opportunities of investments in the port sector in Brazil. We brought a very short presentation, and the main goal is to have an overview of the opportunities we have in all the segments in the port sector in Brazil. So can we please present the presentation? The first slide, please. Thank you very much. Next slide. So before talking about the specific opportunities we have, I'd like to point out some of our characteristics and show why Brazilian port sector is so important for the economy of the country. We have about 7.4 thousand kilometers of coast in Brazil, and plus 13,000 kilometers of navigable waterways. And we have another characteristic, which is that the states that have coasts in Brazil concentrates about 80% of the Brazilian GDP. So that shows that the richest parts of the country are in the coast and next to our ports. And as President Segovia have mentioned before, we have about 90% of our national foreign trade done through the ports and terminals in Brazil. So we don't have to say that ports are vital both for domestic consumer market, but also for national exports and obviously to imports as well. Next slide, please. We have a quite complex port sector in Brazil. First, we have 36 public ports across all the coast, spread it out in the coast in Brazil. About half of them are directly coordinated and managed by the federal government in the dock companies. And as examples of federal ports, we have the Port of Santos and the Port of Rio de Janeiro, for example. But also we have about 18 ports that are controlled by states or local municipalities in Brazil. Next slide, please. We also have fully privatized terminals, and we have a lot. We have 238 private terminals already authorized in Brazil, in all the states of Brazilian territory. And it's important information to mention. Most of them were authorized since 2013 in the last change in the ports law that we had in that year. Next slide, please. Just to show some figures about the cargo handled in Brazilian ports since 2005. As you, ladies and gentlemen, can notice, we have a very constant and stable growth of the cargo being handled in Brazilian ports and terminals. As you can see in the blue bars, we can see that the private installations handled about 65 to 66% of the cargo in Brazil. So we can say that Brazilian port sector is very private, as I can say. Next slide, please. We have two different regulatory frameworks for ports exploitation in Brazil. We have a model, a very typical landlord model in what we call the public ports in Brazil that I mentioned before, the 36 public ports in Brazil. And we have another regulatory framework for the fully privatized terminals. So just giving a very short look at these different regulatory frameworks. For public ports, we have the grant for the contracts in the public ports for the lease agreements made by bidding process in public auctions. On the other hand, for the fully privatized terminals, the grant is through authorizations, which is a faster process, and there is no need for a competition a process via a public auction. So for public ports, the contract terms are up to 35 years, but it can be renewed until 70. On the other hand, for fully privatized terminals, the contract terms are up to 25 years, but can be extended many times as we want. The investments in public ports for the lease agreements are made in a shared responsibility. So for infrastructure such as access channels and berths, mainly the investments are done by port authorities, public port authorities, and the superstructure, equipments, warehouses are investments made by the lessees in our public ports. For fully privatized terminals, mainly all the investments are done both in infrastructure and superstructure by our private partners. The labor scheme for the public ports, we have the port operations with an obligation of the use of the OGMO workers, which is a pool of port workers. But for the fully privatized terminals, there are a freedom to hire. So that's the difference, important difference between these two different models. And at last, talking about the risks, in the lease agreements in public ports, which is a very common model worldwide, we have risks shared between the lessees and the port authorities. For fully privatized terminals, all the risks are private. Engineering risks, demand risks are all private businesses. Next slide, please. Next. So talking about very briefly about the opportunities of investments in the model, the first model, the public port model, and after that I'll talk about the fully privatized terminals. So just to mention, in 2019 we had a very good year in which we could accomplish 13 auctions made for different ports along the coast, along Brazilian coast, with bid values in total about 816 million reais, and investments about 1.1 billion reais only in 2019 for, as I mentioned before, the ventures within the public port areas, right? So next slide. As we can see in this chart, the figures, the numbers of investments are growing since 2016. Actually, in 2020, for the auctions in Brazilian ports, we expect to finish the year with about 2.4 billion reais authorized in these auctions being made in 2020. And we expect to have in 2021 the best year in auctions made and investments authorized within the public port areas. Next slide. If we consider 2020 and 21, we are talking about 24 auctions with investments of about 5.6 billion reais. And that's the some of the details of what we foresee for the end of 2020 and 2021. Next slide, please. So talking very briefly about the opportunities that are presented for the fully privatized terminals with outside the public ports areas. That's the timeline of contracts signed between 2013 and 2019. As we can see, we are growing in the number of contracts signed, and we have a lot of investments being made by this model of fully privatized terminals. Next slide, please. So giving it more details, since 2015, and I have to remember that in 2013, we had a very important change in the ports law in Brazil that allowed fully privatized terminals to handle cargo, not only their own cargo, but also cargo from third parties. So that made a very good increasing of the authorizations of private terminals in Brazil. So we had about 22 billion reais of investments authorized since 2015 in 85 different terminals that had contracts signed. Next slide, please. But we have a lot of foreseen opportunities for the future in 2020, 21, and 22. Our portfolio have about 63 contracts to be signed with investments of about 20 billion reais for those next following years. So as I mentioned before, we have those two different models of exploitation, one for public ports and another one for fully privatized terminals. We are actually experiencing a new trend in Brazilian port sector exploitation as we are discussing the privatization of some of our public ports. So it's a new trend. As I mentioned, our public ports are managed, are controlled by public companies. And we can say that since 1993, when we had the first change in the ports law in Brazil, we have had a lot of investments in our lease agreements, in our contracts for operations. So we can say that we are very efficient in the operations in Brazil compared to any country in the world. So in terms of efficiency in the operational field, we have very good companies doing a very good work, but we have to work on the administration of the public ports and the role of Port Authority that we think that there is a lot of room to improve and to have more efficiency, to attract private investments in order to make investments in our infrastructure, in our public ports. So that's why we are discussing this whole new trend in the public, in the port sector in Brazil, with the privatization of some of our most prominent ports. We have actually in our portfolio 4 different projects, and I'll show very briefly here. The first one that we have plans to privatize in 2021, which is the dock company of Espírito Santo, Codesa, which administrates the ports of Vitória and Barra do Riacho. It's a small to medium-sized dock company that tons in 2019. There is a brownfield in Port of Vitória with a multi-cargo port, actually, that handles from containers to dry and liquid bulk, general cargo, and supply for offshore oil exploitation. So it's a very multi-cargo port. And we have also administrated by Codesa, the port of Barra do Riacho, which is a greenfield, about 500,000 square meters of area, totally free to implement new
OK，
Next slide, please.
下一页
That's our biggest challenge.
就是我们很大的一个挑战。
The second block of privatizations.
在第二个模块的项目方面，在2022年的项目中，
that handled about 106 million tons in 2019. Also a very multi-cargo port with about 4 million TEUs handled in 2019. The biggest port for our dry bulk and agribusiness agribusiness in Brazil. So we are starting the studies, the feasibility studies, and in 2021, we expect to start the process of the auction with the public consultation and the previous analysis of our accounts court in order to, in the first semester of 2022, we are going to have the auction being made. Next slide, please. Also, we are studying, and it's already qualified as a national priority, the privatization of the port of São Sebastian, which is located in the state of São Paulo, next to our richest region in Brazil. It's a small port that handled about 740,000 tons in 2019, but there is a full potential to have a very big growth in the cargo handling in the next years. We are studying this project, and also we expect to deliver it for auction in 2022. And at last, we have the port of Itajaí in the south of Brazil, in the state of Santa Catarina, which is a port that handles mostly containers. So it handles 5.3 million tons in 2019. So it's nowadays administrated by the City Hall in municipality of Itajaí, and we are studying that to transfer the administration of this public port to the private sector also. So this is the pipeline of projects, the timeline for all of them. As we can see, CODESA is finished studies. We are going to present the studies for public hearing in by the end of November, and in order to have the auction by the second semester of 2021. The other ones, Santos, São Sebastião, and Itajaí, are programmed to have the auctions being held in 2022, as I mentioned before. Okay, so this is a very short overview. My presentation will be followed by some of our most prominent executives with some of our more relevant projects for all the models that I showed. So for public ports, for fully privatized terminals, and even for the privatization of public ports. We are working on having a more market-friendly framework in Brazilian port sector. So it's a very big effort in order to be more attractive for private investments and of course for foreign investments in Brazil. Thank you very much for your attention and have a good one, everybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Piloni. You have confirmed to our audience that Brazil is plenty of excellent opportunities in public ports and in private terminals. Thank you. And now to start the first panel, which will address the outlook of port infrastructure in the context of Brazil's economic development. I'm pleased to invite the General Coordinator of Port Lease Modeling at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Mr. Disney Barroca, to begin our panel.
Okay, thank you. I will share my presentation. Okay, it's hard to talk after Diogo. Everyone can see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good morning. My name is Disney Barroca. I'm General Coordinator of Port Lease Modeling at the National Secretary of Ports, where I'm responsible for the bid process in public ports. Initially, I would like to thank Apex for inviting me to participate in this event. It's very important to get this opportunity for us to always keep talking to the private sector, to the stakeholders, collect opinions, suggestions, feedbacks, why not even criticisms. I would like to greet my colleagues on this panel, Cleverson Aroeira of the National Bank of Development, a great partner in this process, José Augusto, Brazilian Association of Infrastructure and Basic Industry, and Murilo Barbosa, Association of Private Port Terminals. So throughout today, we will have the opportunity to listen from several specialists in the port sector, going through the projects in private ports with José Maria, Ricardo De Luca, and many others, and as well as public port concessions itself, as in Santos, with Fernando Biral later. But I will talk about a different subject in port concessions, in port areas. Okay, let's begin. Now we can see a landscape of the Brazilian port sector. As we know, we are a huge country, so we have 36 public ports and 238 authorized private ports, as you already saw in our secretary presentation. But as I said before, I will talk a little more about the opportunities for concessions in public ports, areas in public ports, starting with a brief history 2015-2020 of this process and moving on to a quick analysis for a short-term opportunities. Here we can see an overview for the over last 5 years where we had 37 bids with planned investments something like $1 billion US. In each area we offer to the market, we receive an average something like 2.3 proposal, and the average bid was something like 14 million US dollar. As we can see, we have a lot of processing liquid bulks, fuels, and why liquid bulks receive more attention. So first, we in each public part has its master plan, of course, and if you read our master plan, you will find that need, supply and demand. So of course, we read master plan and develop several projects for liquid bulks. And we also have the behavior change of the main Brazilian producers, Petrobras. So we offer more and more areas for fuels. We can see here also several projects for pulp, cellulose in Brazil are the great producer, and in recent years new factories have been opened, so we need also to offer more and more areas for that cargo. And by the way, the last bid process was in August for pulp, when we offered 2 areas in Port of Santos to handle 5 million tons per year. The auction was a success and was won by 2 major pulp producers. So all of this process, of course, bring new opportunities, more jobs, and especially more opportunities for the private sector. And let's take a look at the future for the next projects for 2020 and 2021, sorry, and 2022. So as we can see here, for the next 2 years, we plan to offer at least 26 areas. The number has changed all the time because we study a lot of areas. And we can see again a large number of liquid bulk fuels terminals. Again, supply and demand. We need to offer more areas. And we call attention to the 2 in the Port of Santos again, that are responsible for the flow of 5 refineries in the states of São Paulo, and these 2 terminals we handle more than 11 million tons per year, are huge terminals for liquid bulk. We also have imported grain terminals in Santos and especially in Paranaguá. Brazil is a major grain producer, so we need also to offer more and more areas to export and movement that production. Today, I don't have a lot of time, only 10 minutes, so it's not possible to talk about the details of each project. So if anyone didn't find any of your opportunities, your expectation, please call us. Of many of these processes that we saw today were born out from requests from the private sector. So we talk a lot with the private sector. And if anyone wants more detailed information about the projects, my contacts will appear at the end of this presentation. So thank you very much for our attention and we expect your contacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barroca. It's very impressive that in the next 2 years, Brazil will have 26 ports bids. So for sure, our audience is impressive with these figures. And now the superintendent of the Brazilian National Development Bank Investment Partnership Structuring division, Mr. Cleverson Arueira, will talk to us.
Thank you, Roberto. Very good to be here with Murilo, José Augusto, and Disney, my colleagues in this panel. And thank you for Apex for this opportunity to talk to our potential investors in the port sectors in Brazil. I would like to share with you briefly part of the work we have been doing here in the port sector. Actually, BNDES is known by its lending army. So BNDES, as a development bank, we support infrastructure in Brazil for many decades, and mainly providing financial solutions, structuring project finance operations. But I'm responsible for the division that acts in the earlier stage of the projects. So we help the public sector to prepare the projects and prepare the bids. And we have partnership with all of the governments in Brazil, cities, states, and also the federal government. In this case, in the case of the port sectors, our client is the federal government, and as Mr. Diogo Piloni and Disney mentioned, Mr. Diogo Piloni brought an excellent presentation showing an overview of the sector. And part of what he showed are the project we are responsible for. And I would like to just show you this briefly. My screen here shows you the portfolio under the responsibility of BNDES. We have some economic infrastructure sectors and social infrastructure sectors. So the idea here is just to talk about ports, but I would like to take this opportunity to show you also that we are providing opportunities in infrastructure in other sectors. And just to highlight, the sanitation sector is passing through a transformation in Brazil. So many opportunities will be brought to the market in the next years. And also the highway sector, the toll roads, we will have in the next 3 years. Basically, we will double the number of concessions in Brazil. So here we will also have a huge pipeline of opportunities. Just to show you, this is our pipeline in sanitation. We had this morning the auction of this project, Cariacica. This is a city of almost 500,000 people. Last month we had Alagoas, and in a few weeks we will issue the bid documents of Rio de Janeiro, and more projects are coming to the pipeline. So if you want to have more information about sanitation opportunities, this website here shows the projects we are structuring. In case of highway, we have a package of concessions in Minas Gerais, in Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul state, Pernambuco state, and Rio de Janeiro, and also a package of federal highways of almost 8,000 kilometers. So around 17,000 kilometers will be brought to the market. And just for reference, we have 20,000 kilometers of concessions in Brazil nowadays. So it represents basically 100% of, almost 100% of new concessions in the next few years. And finally, talking about ports, Diogo brought us a very good speech. The situation is the following. We have private investors in the port sectors in cargo handling and terminal operations since the 90s, since 1993. And nowadays, basically 100% of the operations are are under private sector administration. But actually, we still have a bottleneck to take our ports to the top level and the benchmarking of the in comparison to the most important ports in the world. We have the landlord model in Brazil. This is the model we think that is the best to multiple ports, and we have many of them in Brazil. This is due to the size of the country, the size of the coast in Brazil. So we have many ports over our coast, and multiple ports with liquid, bulk, and containers, cargo, all kinds of cargo. But actually, those ports, although we have a model of landlord, actually the companies are, as Diogo mentioned, Secretary Diogo mentioned, the companies that manage those ports are state-owned companies. So this is, maybe this is not a problem in many countries, and actually we see ports like Hamburg and in Holland and also in Asian ports, we see many of them ran by state-owned companies and well-managed ports with good results. But actually in Brazil, it brings to the companies a lot of constraints, because the regulatory framework in Brazil and the administrative framework to the public sector in Brazil impose a lot of constraints to hire, to negotiate, and to establish a relationship with the market. The procurement law is very rigid, and the way the state-owned companies in Brazil hire people is rigid. And we have also a big problem that is the fiscal constraints. So actually, when we consider a lot of sectors of infrastructure in Brazil, the sectors that had private participation over the last few years, they had improvements in investments, in quality of service, and in efficiency. On the other hand, the sectors we still have the public sector managing the assets due to the fiscal constraints, due to this bureaucracy and a rigid legal framework. The companies, even with good officers, even with good people there, they face a lot of problems to be in the market and to develop the investments and operations like private sector in an efficient way. So the idea here, and the Ministry of Infrastructure is very engaged in this program. The idea is bring to the port administration, to the landlord port administration, what we have experienced in other sectors in Brazil, like the power sector, like the airport sector, toll road sectors, in which we have the private sector operating and administrating assets. So Codesa is a state-owned company. Nowadays, Codesa has officers with high quality people working there, managing the port. But even with that situation, actually, it was not always like that. So being a state-owned company, actually the company administration will depend on the policy and the government policy, and also will face a lot of constraints that a state-owned company have, like as I just mentioned. So in this case, this is our pilot project. In this case, we are very advanced with the studies. We will finish the studies this quarter, and in the next few weeks, we will present the full model of a private landlord port. So bring the private sector to administrate and to manage the port with more flexibility, more efficiency. And this is interesting because our external audit court, TCU, recently issued a report with some findings about how are the ports in Brazil managed by state-owned companies. And our audit court reached the conclusion that we need more flexibility, we need more efficiency. And this is what we are looking for in this program. And we expect that CODESA, as a pilot project, will set a lot of guidelines to this program, important guidelines, and I brought some of them here. So this is a port with a strategic location. We will have flexibility to the private sector to manage the land and to have a partnership inside the projects in a private regulatory framework, and not facing the constraints the state-owned company has nowadays. I would like to leave a message here that we are starting to make public the documentation and the model. And this stage is very important because this is the stage in which we can have a deep discussion with the private sector. BNDES is in charge of the studies and will promote this interaction with all the market, the companies and investors that are interested in know deeply this model and invest in Brazil in such a sector. And then we will organize some events and some meetings, one-to-one meetings, to present this model and to collect all the contributions the market have to improve the model, having this aim to launch the bid documents in middle of next year, second semester of next year. So we are in this stage that is very important. This interaction of the market is part of the building of a new model. And in CODESA, we will start in this just in a few weeks. And in case of Port of Santos, that is the main asset among the ports in Brazil, we are just starting the studies. We have hired the consultants already. So BNDES is also in charge of these studies. Santos and São Sebastião, the studies are being done at the same time. I would like to assure that we are available to discuss and to receive contribution, and also to share information with potential investors in order to prepare to be part of this transformation and to be part of consortium, to bid for those assets. In this case, as I mentioned, we are starting the studies. The idea is to finish the studies in the first half of next year. So probably in 6 or 7 months, we will be in the same stage we are nowadays in CODESA. So CODESA is actually the pioneer. We will open this conversation with the market, and in a few months, we will open this conversation about Santos also with the market. And just to finish, BNDES will be available to this kind of interaction that is very important to build a model in which we consider the interest of the investors. This is very important to put in place a model in which we will foster investments, we will offer quality of service, but we will also offer legal certainty, attractiveness to the private sector to be part of this transformation. Thank you again for this opportunity. And for sure, I will be here available to discuss and answer the doubts.
Thank you very much, Cleverson, for highlighting the role of BNDES, particularly in structuring projects in the port sector. We know that when the bank conducts the studies and public hearings, this contributes to build the trust of our investors. Thank you very much. Continuing with the panel, the CEO of the Association of Private Port Terminals, ATP, Mr. Murilo Barbosa.
Thanks a lot. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have no presentation to show. I only will do some few remarks about the fully privatized ports. First, I would like to thank for the opportunity to participate in this important initiative for attracting investments to the port industry, which is, without a doubt, one of the most promising to the recovery process of the Brazilian economy. I'd like to thank the president of Apex Brazil.
是一个很重要的推进器。我这边想要感谢我几位朋友，也是这
Scotto for having invited ATP to integrate the event, as well as 3 of our 29 associates who will present projects here today. Alemoa, with its liquid bulk terminal in Santos Port, São Paulo State. Imetame, whose project is about to start its construction in Barra do Riacho, Espírito Santo State. And Porto do Açu, a large logistic complex in the north of Rio de Janeiro State with great growth potential. It's also important to mention 2 beautiful private ports projects that are the Terminal Portuário de Alcântara and Porto Central. These 2 ports definitively mark the new investment concept that is the private port complex. We are positive that in the future we will have the pleasure to living with these 2 projects as members of ATP. I'd like to salute the National Secretary for Ports and Water Transport, Diogo Piloni, who on this occasion represents the Ministry of Infrastructure, Tarcísio de Freitas, with his technical competence and that of his team has been greatly contributing to the development of strengthening the industry. Currently, the investments portfolio in the private sector is the largest in Brazil infrastructure sector and sums up to 43 billion reais, about $7.6 billion in investments in the last 8 years. Our sector think high, and we expect an additional 4.5 billion of reais, about $1 billion of US dollars in investments in the coming years, with some 44 public announcements. ATP's 29 associates operating segments of the economy, such as agro agribusiness, fuel, containers, logistics, ore, and steel. Together, they handle 60% of all Brazilian port cargo. The purpose of our association is freedom to entrepreneur. And along with that, we understand that we need a business scenario with legal safety, debureaucratization, incentives to the investments, and the competitiveness of the terminals. In addition, we prime for environment sustainability, and many of our associate terminals are example of success in this area, reaching the first places in the performance index of the regulatory agency, ANTAC. We still have the great challenge as a country to untie the bureaucratic bonds and fight the excessive regulation that drives away both national and international private investors. With a favorable regulatory environment and legal safety, we believe Brazil can take the leap in competitiveness that are crucial for the resumption of private investments. I would also like to take the opportunity to publicize our event, the 7th ATP meeting, which will take place next Wednesday, October 28th. It will be a virtual debate on freedom to entrepreneur, a strategic topic that is at the core of the Brazilian government economic plan. Thank you, and I wish you all a great event with ample possibilities of partnerships in our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murilo Barbosa, for shedding light on the importance of the private port terminals in Brazil. And now to close our first panel, I would like to invite the Deputy Coordinator of the ABDIB Port Committee, Mr. José Castro.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Roberto, thank you very much for the opportunity of being here, sharing this seminar with you. And I thank Apex for the invitation on behalf of the Brazilian Association of Infrastructure and Basic Industries. I'm a member of the coordination of the Ports Committee, which is a body inside ABDIB, which is how our association is most widely known, ABDIB. And I'm a member of the Port Committee, and we, as members of this Port Committee, we have access to how the private sector sees the ports and terminals activity in Brazil. So, in addition to what my colleagues of the panel have already shared regarding the public point of view, and Murilo has already shared a good portion of how the private sector sees the investments in Brazil, I'd like to provide you, our investors, our potential investors in this seminar, about how the private sector in Brazil is seeing the current moment that the government is going through and the country in general is going through. I think we have a major challenge in terms of investment in Brazil for our port sector, and that's the initial message that is important for this big challenge is that we have an open government for discussions. I think that's a good point, and that's a good initial remark. Every time in our association, every time we wanted to address certain concern of our sector to the public bodies, including the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Infrastructure, the BNDES. We had two very recent meetings for one of them with the presence of Joe Piloni, which is what was a speaker in this seminar recently, in which we discussed potential investments in the port sector. We also have a very interesting meeting with a representative of the BNDES, in which we discussed the potential of Brazilian cabotage, the carriage of goods by seas in Brazil. So in general terms, we have a good dialogue with the government. We might not agree in certain points. Of course, that's normal in every place in the world. But the fact is that we have a good ground for discussion of topics with the Brazilian government. That's a good point. And going through our main challenges in terms of investment, we specifically in the transport infrastructure, investment in Brazil in transport and logistics in 2019 reached 0.39% of the Brazilian GDP. And according to a mapping made by Abordou, the necessary investment for that would be around 2.26% of the GDP. So we should kind of make the investment in transport infrastructure in Brazil around 6 to 7 times higher than the actual amount. So that gives an idea of our challenge in terms of bringing investment to our infrastructure sector, especially transport infrastructure. So the challenge is indeed very, very big. Currently, private sector responds for around 70 to 72% of all the investment in transport logistics in Brazil, transport infrastructure, and the public sector responds for around 27% of that investment. So that figure gives an idea of the Brazilian, let's say, openness to public investment. Today, around 70 to 75% is already made by private investors. So that's gives an idea of how open we are to that. So in terms of opportunities in Brazilian port sector, we, as Diogo already mentioned in my previous speakers in this panel have already said, we have a mixed system in Brazil. And now I'm using the cap of a lawyer in the infrastructure sector in Brazil. And we have a mixed model here. We have public ports and we have private ports. We have opportunities in both. It will depend a lot on the kind of strategy that your company is aiming to put in place in our country. For example, if you are public areas are normally brownfield projects, are areas already have a certain infrastructure, and so probably the level of investment that you have to do in order to put that specific terminal in operation will not be as high as in a private project in which we will have to develop from scratch. That's an interesting point of advantage for the public ports. Normally, you have in the public sectors already all your licenses in place. You have already your environmental licenses in place. So this, which is very burdensome in Brazil, it's a big path until you reach your operating licenses. So this is another advantage. And in the private part, as Diego Piloni said, we had a recent amendment that allowed private ports to handle cargo from third parties as well. That's provided a big boom in private investments in Brazil, because until recently, you only could handle your own cargo. Now you can handle the cargo from somewhere else, from other companies. So that explains the number of requests for authorization for private terminals in Brazil in the last 5 to 7 years. So in the private side, the main advantages are you have more freedom to make your own strategy, to set how you're going to do your investment, what will be the sector that you're going to address on. You have to, you can select the kind of cargo that you will handle. You can select the kind of your own chronogram of investments, which is different from investment in the public sector. And normally in the public sector, you have around 35-year contracts, and you normally are under the inspection of a port authority, normally a private, normally a public company like Codesp or Coderj in the state of Rio de Janeiro. And now, of course, we have plans to make those companies private. But at this point, these companies are public. And so in the public sector, you have to report to those companies. So you have to find a balance of what you want in terms of investment. Would you prefer like a more stable and a long-term investment in a public sector in a brownfield project with a given infrastructure, or you go into a fully greenfield project with more freedom, or of course, with certain you have to have more challenge and probably make more investments for that. So another relevant point regarding regulation that might be very interesting for investors is that Brazilian government is studying ways of making the system, the use of public areas more flexible. Instead of a concessional lease agreement of 35 years, the government is studying ways of making public areas allow the use of, for example, areas for 24 months to 48 months. Instead of being connected to a 35-year contract, you are more, you can make in a test basis the use of certain areas in public sector ports. And that's another point of relevance that we should consider in this regulatory framework. And of course, we have the concessions that are coming of the main dock companies in Brazil. So I see that we have a lot of interesting opportunities that private investors might be interested in looking at in the next years. And as a representative of the Brazilian Association of Infrastructure in Basic Industry, we are ready to discuss with foreign investors and, of course, Brazilian investors as well, all the opportunities and to find new possibilities for investments in port sector in Brazil. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, José Augusto. Yes, the regulatory framework has been changing so much, and it has been improving in Brazil in this sector. And after these very good presentations of our speakers, now we will begin the pitch session with the presentation of some of the best opportunities for investment in Brazilian ports. And each project will be explained by its representative, and we'll have 10 minutes to detail their opportunities. For the presentation of the first project, I would like to invite the Program Director of the Transportation Coordination Secretariat, Ms. Ana Salles.
Hello, good morning. I'm going to share a presentation, but firstly, I'd like to thank Apex and congratulate for organizing this meeting, this event. This is very important and a very good opportunity for us to show our projects. I believe this is my presentation. Just going to open on the presentation mode. I'm actually from PPI or IPP, the Brazilian Investment Partnership Program. So I'm going to show you a little bit of our portfolios of port investments. Firstly, just very quickly to explain how the PPI works. We are responsible for following up some projects that are classified as preferred projects for the Brazilian government. This classification is made by a council that is made from the president and some ministers of state, Minister of Economy, Executive Office, Infrastructure, Mines and Energy, Environment, Regional Development, the Secretary of Government, and the federal banks, the presidents of the federal banks. They choose some of the projects to be prioritized in the Brazilian government. And after that, we, as a secretary, follow up these projects. The main goal of our secretary and the choosing of these projects of the whole Brazilian possibilities, it is to bring some governance to the project, to bring transparency, to bring credibility, to follow up the deadlines and the schedules of these projects. You know, that's very important to go as the project goes to the end, and to actually go to the auction and don't stop in the middle way. That's very important for the credibility of the country. So our goal is to follow up all the projects as far as they go, and help the projects to develop and to be able to go to the auction. And afterwards, with all the environmental issues, we will also help. All the regulatory issues that the project may have, we also help. So we work as a hub. We have and all the dialogue with both the investors and the public side, so we can bring the problems and the issues from the investors to the public side in both ways. And also we'd like to be this first channel, first contact to the investors, so they can be able to see everything that we have in the pipeline as priority projects from the government. So just some numbers very quickly. I'm going to stop talking about our job and then talking about the projects specifically. But we had, since the creation of the secretary in 2016, we had 339 projects, already accomplished 184, and brought some billions of investments, and also some concession fees and some bonuses for the government. But our main goal isn't to bring the bonuses or the bids or the concessions fees, but the actual investments, and to allow the public to increase the infrastructure, to improve the infrastructure in Brazil in several areas. This is just a highlight of our main deliveries, especially in the ports sector. We had 2 terminals in the Port of Santos, mainly for handling cellulose, which was, in our point of view, a very big success. So this is a big highlight, but we also have highways and railways, and some projects in sanitation that we had a very, very big portfolio, but it's another subject for another day. The current portfolio of PPI, it's very broad, and we had 154 projects in different areas, especially in ports. We have 33, but I'm going to show you the nearest ones that we have in the pipeline. So let me just speed a little bit. We have 2 kinds of projects that are qualified, are preference projects, are priority projects for the Brazilian government. We have the port privatizations or concessions, and we have the tenors, the leasings, the terminal leasings. The terminal leasings, it's a very usual way of concession that we have all over the world, the landlord part and this kind of contract. But in Brazil, the public port, we have a bidding process to the leasings. And now the Brazilian government had decided to bring the private sector for the administration of the port. So we are going to privatize the port authority, the functions of the port authority and the actual company itself in some cases. In the cases that the company is federal, it will be privatized. So here we have the 4 projects that are qualified as priority for the Brazilian government. Codesa Cleverson from the BNDES had already spoken very well about the project. I won't go deep on that, but we are very open and we can share some other information if anyone has more questions. Also, I believe he also has this availability. We have the Port of Santos, which is the biggest port in Brazil, one of the biggest in South America in handling cargo. It's a very important port. 30% of the Brazilian trade, commerce, and international commerce goes through this port. We are very hopeful and excited about this project, all the projects in the portfolio, but this is a kind of a special one for the Brazilian government. Port of San Sebastian, which will be studied along with Port of Santos and also Port of Itajaí, which is it's a port in the south. It's the 4th one in our portfolio, but it's a very interesting port. It's mainly for handling container cargoes and general cargoes. But it has some very interesting specifics that I can share with you some more detailed information afterwards if anyone has any doubts or questions. This is just some highlights of the port concession models. I won't go very deep on that because already since Diogo from the Secretary of National Ports had already spoken about that, and also Cleverson. So just some highlights. This presentation will be available afterwards, so any questions I can answer. So it's just some highlights. And here some of our projects, our nearest projects. We have a vehicle terminals at the port of Paranaguá in the south of Brazil that will be leased on December 18th of this year. We have some expected investments. The project is not binding, and the investor can propose some modifications on the project, but he has to follow up the obligations of capacity of handling, minimal handling. So our system is very flexible for the investor. It could be very interesting, a very interesting investment. We also have a solid bulk terminal at the port of Aratu, the Atu 12, which is mainly for handling fertilizers. This is a terminal that's already in operation. It's a brownfield terminal. It's a brownfield project. Also, we'll be leased on December 18th. The auction criteria is the highest grant. It's the biggest bid that you can offer for this terminal. We have the 18, which is also going to be leased on December 18th. So, and it's going to be for solid bulk, mainly grain, soy. There's a lot of soy in this area, and that can be exported through this terminal. That's a very big interesting of the producers to expand the capacity of the terminals that handle this kind of cargo. So we have very big hopes on all four terminals that we are going to lease on the end of this year. Also on December 18th, we're gonna lease the MAC 10, which is a liquid bulk terminal, mainly for sulfuric acid, but there is a lot of flexibility for other kind of cargo, especially liquid bulk cargos. We have 4 terminals in the port of Itaqui. I'm going to pass a little bit fast through them because they are all for liquid bulk, especially fuel in the port of Itaqui. They have some difference. We have two of them that are greenfield projects, so they have more investments, but we have 2 of them that are brownfield projects that are already in operation. So we know there are different kinds of investors interested in one or another. Also, we have some information in the presentation, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have about it. This is currently at the Federal Court of Accounts, and they are analyzing some issues that showed up after the first approval, and we hope to have some binding documents public at the end of this year, hopefully next month, and the public action in the beginning of 2021. So this are the 4 liquid bulk projects in the port of Itaqui. We also have a solid bulk terminal in the port of Santana, which is now being analyzed by the federal court, the TCU. Hopefully we'll have some approval this month in the next weeks, probably. This is a terminal vocated to handle solid vegetable, a special kind of solid. It is soy, but it's a very specific kind of soy. And it's a small, it's a not very big terminal. It's just 41 million reais, which would be less than $10 million. But it's very important for the region, the Santana region, and we are hopeful about this terminal. And after, just to be near the end of my presentation, that I think I've already transpassed my time a little bit, so I'm sorry. And it is the 2 terminals that we have for liquid bulk, especially fuel and gas in the Port of Santos. These projects are the biggest ones in our pipeline for terminals. And they will be, we are going to submit the studies to the Federal Court of Accounts probably in the next few days. We just had a big event with some interesting parties to show the aspects of the project. And it is scheduled to have the bidding documents in the beginning of the next year, probably the first trimester. This is not the biggest one. This is the STS-08E is the biggest one. It's a very interesting investment. It's 1.2, close to 1.2 billion reals. With the current currency, will be something like $200 million, give or take. It's a operational terminal. It export and handle and import and handle the fuel mainly for Petrobras nowadays, but there is a lot of other possibilities. And as I said, I'm always available for discussion, showing more information about the projects and any questions that you may have about the whole portfolio in PPI. Just to finalize, this is the next auctions, the 4 ones that I've already spoken, and the next ones for the next year. Also the port concession of Codesa that will be leased next year. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ana Salles, for showing to our investors a lot of opportunities that the investment partnerships program has in its pipeline. Thank you. Now for the presentation of the second project, I would like to invite the CEO of the Santos Port Authority, Mr. Fernando Biral.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Roberto. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's a pleasure to being here. And the idea of our presentation is to show a little bit about Santos. I think it's very known as the largest port in Brazil. But I think it's important that we give you some context about the projects and about the port. Can you see the presentation? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Great. I think that now it's better. First of all, the Santos Port Authority is a company, it's a public company that is subordinated to the Ministry of Infrastructure. And we are very glad that in the last 2 years, I think we have gained the recovery of the confidence of some investors. And we have done a lot. I'm talking in the name of the ministry, but we have done a lot of auctions and concessions, and they were very successful projects in partnership with PPI in Brazil that's coordinating all these efforts. So I think this portfolio, what has been done is a sign that Brazil is having another approach to infrastructure, and it's very important that the private sector is being invited to invest here. And it's very important that the private investor has this confidence in the state, in the Brazilian state, in the Brazilian government. In this slide, we show that we had a lot of 32 biddings and concession renewals since 2019. And I think this is the first message to the investors. Port of Santos is naturally blessed because it's very well located. It's in state of São Paulo, and we are close to almost 2/3 of our GDP. And Santos is responsible to trade, for the movement of almost 30% of our trade account. So we are not the leaders in terms of volume. We have other ports that are more important, and that they handle iron ore or oil and gas. But in terms of the representativeness in the trade balance, we are the leaders. This is a slide where we give some numbers about our capacity. Today we have the capacity to handle 5.3 million containers. So we are responsible 40% of containers movement in Brazil. Break books, liquid books, solid books, vehicles, passengers. We are a multi-purpose port. And so we have all this complexity here. We have 53 terminals and more than 25 kilometers in our channel. Today, some of these terminals are completely, how I could say, fully explored. As the liquid book, we have a capacity of 17.4, and we are handling 16.9. So we are trying to expand the capacity here, and that's why the first thing we did here was to start working in the bid in the auction of the liquid bulk terminals as presented by Anna. And so we this is what we call the project STS 08 and 08A. Okay, so here we have another slide showing the main routes, particularly China, and that's our first client in terms of countries, and also we export a lot to Europe and United States. We are having an annual growth of 5% since 2009. So we don't know what is a crisis here. We don't know what's a recession. We are growing a lot. And this year, even with COVID and the pandemic, we are growing 10%. So it's a very strong growth. And this is due to the power of the agribusiness and the power of our exports, because with this with the current this currency exchange now, I think we become more competitive, and so this is reflecting directly in the volume that we are exporting. So as I said, the pandemic did not reduce the cargo handling in Port of Santos. We broke the historical handling record, 3 million tons per month. So this being our average here. It's very impressive this year. And I would like to share some of the opportunities here at the Port of Santos. So as Anna said, we have these two auctions that are programmed to the first quarter next year. So STS 08 and STS 08A. And we are increasing, we are building here 2 new berths and increase 40% the capacity of the port in terms of liquid bulk handling. So it's a contract term of 25 years in STS 08 and 08A. And also we have the capex. It's almost 1.5 billion reais. This is a strategic auction because we are having a lot of trouble now to handle with the several ships that are coming here to Santos, and they have to wait. There is a line that we are trying to improve the productivity. We are trying to implement new procedures to improve the productivity, but it's very hard to handle with this line. So this is strategic for us. And we have also other important projects. We have already done the STS 14. That was, the auction was done last August, and we have a down payment of almost $500 million reais. And the next auctions we are going to bid another area for cargo fertilizer, another area here for versatile solid bulk. We are clustering this area. This area was handling several other types of cargoes, and now we are creating a consolidated area for versatile solid bulk. This is very important for us also because it's growing a lot of capacity in this. It's one of the last areas. We are moving basically the cellulose from this area, okay, to this area in green, where the new terminals are being built. And also we have 2 new auctions out that we are working on the modeling, on the business modeling, and that is the SCSZ 39. That's for container. It's gonna be probably the investment, the most important investment in container terminals, and probably is gonna be the last area for the next 20 years to be explored by containers. And we have also this area here that's a terminal. It's another area to handle containers. It's not close to the dockyard, but it's very important here to handle the cargoes from not only this area Sabor, but also here, which we have BTP. So it's another strategic investment. So we have 8 new area leases, and this is going to movement almost 8 billion reais in investments. When we sum up everything, it's almost 8 billion in investments. And so we are going to have a lot of construction. We are going to move a lot the economy here. We are going to foster the economy here, and we are estimating that almost 6,000 jobs will be created. But basically, they are going to be dedicated to the construction. They are not permanent jobs. There is a growth in the because new terminals will obviously require more jobs, but it's estimated in 2,000 jobs. So what we are really having in terms of job growth is gonna be due to the construction. And also we have 2 billion reais in investments that are going to be done by the railway, and also we have some infrastructure in terms of the roadway that is responsible for integrating the complex that's Imigrantes and Anchieta, that are the main roads that came from São Paulo. We have to integrate with the port, so we have 2 roadways around the port, so we're going to invest also there. So for foreigner companies and even to Brazilian companies, there's an opportunity here in Santos, so that all the companies that work with infrastructure should be analyzing these projects to be part of this value chain of this investments that are going to happen. And our idea is that we give, in the next 3-4 years, we give a huge step on eliminating all the constraints that we have now in the Port of Santos. And even with the privatization, that we are also working with that, but even with the privatization, we think that this plan is going to be followed, is going to be executed, because it's a very technical plan, and it was analyzed with the help of the Ministry of Infrastructure by several technicians, and we are sure that we have the demand for using all this infrastructure. And so these projects are very attractive financially speaking. So I think it's a huge opportunity for everybody, and these investments, these projects should be in the radar of several companies that want to build a new port here. Thank you very much. We can discuss, and even we are open here to further details.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fernando Biral, for giving us details about this excellent project. For the presentation of the third project, I'd like to invite the CEO of Porto Central, Mr. José Maria Vieira Novaes.
Dear Roberto, thank you very much for the invitation. Good to see you all. I will share with you a short presentation about Porto Central. Let me just share. So Porto Central is a greenfield project. We haven't started construction yet. We are in a final phase of development of the project that we have started about 7 years ago. So in this presentation, you can see with a little more detail how we are progressing and how would be our plans. Porto Central, Brazil is a very strong world commodity supplier, and will keep growing. If you see Brazil now as a ninth economy in the world, 200 million people living here, and the expectation of the population growth of the world would be 7.8 to 9.8 billion, so more 2 billion in the world, and the per capita income is growing, so it means that the consumption will be high, and Brazil as one of the leaders in the commodity export will continue being pressured to attend the international market, mainly in iron ore, soya, corn, crude oil. And we also have a very strong importation from few goods that we don't have in Brazil enough, like fertilizers, wheat, coke, and gas and manufacturing products. Asia is our main market. So we need large ships, and large ships require large ports. If you see the Brazilian position, the World Bank classification regarding ports, we are in the 145th position. So it means that we are now in a bad quality of port infrastructure, and you need to improve hardly to get more competitiveness for the future. Porto Central is located in Espírito Santo State, which is very well located on the connection with the grain area and iron ore reserves. We are about 160 kilometers far from Vitória, which is the capital of the state. And we need the railway connection that is already planned to be built in the next few years. So Porto Central, besides the fact that they're near the crude oil reserves and gas reserves, we are also very shortly connected with the main producer area. This is the master plan we developed together, Port of Rotterdam, which is our partner. It's a greenfield project that, as I said, offering infrastructure that can be implemented according to demand along the years. Do a construction of the two breakwaters, north and south. We can bring the sea channel in a 25 meters depth to accommodate the largest vessels per terminal. So we designed the port to achieve the maximum of the capacity of the productivity of the terminal. So for the VLCCs on the crude oil, the Key Max for the LNG, Vale Max for iron ore, 14,000 TEUs container, Cape size for grains, and so all the design are based on the largest vessels. It brings a lot of competitiveness on the sea freight costs. The business model, Porto Central as a holding, is a kind of private port authority that will invest in the infrastructure and the basic infrastructure, and to lease the areas, the terminals, to the investors and the operators. So our clients will be, at the end, the terminal operators for the liquid bulk terminal, LNG, general cargo, grains, and others. And the users will have the opportunity to handle the cargoes directly with the negotiation with the clients, the Porto Central clients. Porto Central will have as a revenue the lease of the area and the port dues through the throughput of the port. So the partners are TPK Logística, which has the controller by Polymix, with a concrete and cement group in Brazil, which is the developer and sponsor. Vanorte Dredging is our partner and co-investor, and Port of Rotterdam, who supported us on the development through the advisory services. To start the port, we see that the main market, the booming market will be the crude oil production export. In 3-4 years ahead, Brazil will have lack of port infrastructure to operate those volumes that will achieve about 4-5 million cubic meters day, barrels day, sorry. Then Brazil will need to add port capacity to handle those volumes. So you can see the number of platforms already planned or under construction that will come to Brazil that will need logistics support. We intend to start the construction only with this blue area. That would be the first terminal, is the PCT terminal, Porto Central Energy Terminal, that will be able to handle simultaneously four ship-to-ship operations, to double banking operation, but also is able to transfer crude from one ship to another ship in another berth. So it means that we will have a lot of flexibility, and also connect to land. We are able to install a tank farm that can be used for storage of crude or for receive oil products for distribution in Brazil. How is the status of the project? From the 7 years, we invested in the land acquisition. So there is about 1,800 hectares of land on the project area. The permits itself are solved, we have all granted by the authorities. The project is already completed and optimized. The construction contract is already negotiated with Vanorte, that will be responsible for the marine works. And the clients and the funding is the pending issue. We are now negotiating take-or-pay contracts with the oil companies that are aiming to open this new opportunity in Brazil, that they know that these contracts will be the key for the investment. So it's in the current phases, we are negotiating with them. And in parallel, we are working on the funding of the project. We're structuring the funding that we intend to solve the equation until first Q1 2021. The works would start in April next year, and the first oil ship would be in January 2024. There are several opportunities of investment. Any of investor would be very welcome to investigate the appetite to invest in the holding company, to participate in the development of all phases of the project. We are also searching investors for the lease of the terminal. So we nominate this company PCT, Porto Central Energy Terminal, which have the concession to explore and operate the liquid bulk terminal. Tank farm is also an opportunity, as there are companies that are willing to have storage in Porto Central. The LNG terminal can be constructed in parallel of the jetty, the crude oil jetty, with the marginal investments. So there will be also a possibility to lease the terminal for Espírito Santo and the surrounding areas consumptions, and also to invest in the industrial area. We are developing power plants. We already have 1.2 giga of energy on design and licensed for future auctions, and we are now developing additionally more 3.9 giga of energy for future auctions. So in future, Porto Central will have capability to produce about 5 giga of energy. And we are also developing a free zone area. In Brazil, we say ZPE. And it will be a very nice place to install industries focused on exportation. There are also opportunities as a service provider, like supply and operation of tug fleet, or any kind of additional services that will be necessary in Porto Central. So thank you very much for this opportunity to show all of you. And we are more than glad to receive any kind of demand from one of you.
Thank you very much, José Maria. I'd like to remind all the participants that if you want more detailed information, Apex Brazil can arrange one-on-one meetings with each one of our speakers. For the presentation of the fourth project, I'd like to invite the Director of Oil and Gas at Porto do Açu, Mr. Ricardo De Luca.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Apex, for this wonderful webinar. Let me just connect here. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we see.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's easy to talk about Porto do Açu nowadays. We are a young port, less than 10 years, but we have reached a lot so far. So we are more than a port. We are developing an industrial hub, an energy hub. We believe we are one of the most promising areas for business in Brazil. We are, by the way, we are open for business. And in Rio de Janeiro, we are the biggest and more important structure project ongoing. Now we have more than 7,000 people working as we speak. So it's a huge project, but we still have a lot to go. And so it's really very important to be here to show our capacity, our opportunities, and for investment. So I'm very glad. Here it's just, as you know, Açu is owned by Prumo Logística Group. So they have 98% of the land of the project. So and the 2% is owned as a strategic partner, Port of Antwerp. So Port of Antwerp is giving us all the experience of a mature and one of the biggest ports in the world. So in safety, in efficiency. So they are bringing all this experience to us. We also have a partner, a strategic partnership with Port of Houston and Guangzhou Port in China. And here we can see in the left side all the players, all our partners that are doing business in the port. So Prumo has some partnership with few of these companies, as in some specific projects. Prumo invested in these projects to enhance the development of the port in the beginning. But our main goal is to be the landlord and the port administrator. In the right, you can see a few projects that I'm going to detail a bit more as we go with this presentation. So we have one of the largest offshore support base in the world from Edson Schwest, American company. So this company is doing almost 50% of the logistics of Campus Basin. So we are in front of this very important basin for oil and gas. We are developing a subsea cluster now. So we have Technip, FMC, NOV, Intermur, and other companies that are focused in the subsea development of the pre-salt. And so we are really being developing, as we say, a subsea hub. Very important with all the expertise installed. We have Ferroport, that is a partnership with Anglo-Americans for exportation of iron ore. They already reached 2.4 million tons a month of exportation of iron ore that come from a mine in the Minas Gerais. So it was the first project at the port, and so that developed the port from the beginning. We have also Petróleo, that is one of our key companies nowadays, responsible for 25% of exportation of crude oil coming from the basins in offshore basins. So we have Petrobras, we have Shell, Equinor, Petrogal, and all these companies doing business. We already did almost 200 operations and 86 with VLCCs. So it's a huge number for a young port. And we have the thermal power plant, GNA. We have 3 gigawatts contracted. The first thermal power plant is done. So it's going to start operation January 21st. And we have a FSRU that is gonna for the LNG that is coming from BP from outside. So it's in the second thermal power plant already under contract as well. Is gonna be start construction next year. So we have 3 gigawatts ready, and more 3.4 gigawatts for two more power plants. For new actions that it's already licensed. So here we have some figures of the port. So we are the 3rd port in Brazil in number of operations. We have a huge area, 90 square kilometers for business. Now in the total we have 130 square kilometers, where out of that 40 is for a reserved area. We have 17 kilometers of quayside. For expansion, we have the VTS for the control of the in and out of the vessels. We have this Caruara, that is the preserved dedicated Restinga that is conservation, that takes 40 square meters and have 7,000 people working. As we developed the port around the green hub, so we have the Caruara that for us is a very important sustainability project. So we are controlling all that, and we are developing. And around that, we developed 5 hubs. So we have the gas power hub, that is the GNA. We have the oil hub with Petróleo. We have the ore hub with Ferroport. And we have the logistics and service hub, we call oil and gas hub. So it's really the port has really a DNA for oil and gas there, as for the location. And the industrial hub, that is the next step, that what we are going after. So we believe that the port is going to have a gas coming from offshore, from pipeline offshore soon. and then we are going to be able to develop some industries that need the cheap gas. So here we can see the port is located in the north of Rio de Janeiro, just in front of, very close to Campos, in the middle of Rio de Janeiro in Vitória, and in front of the Campos Basin. So that's why we bring a lot of the oil and gas logistics to the port. For the connectivity, yeah, we need the railroad as well to enhance the industries there. We are developing a gas and oil pipeline from Barra do Furado, from Macaé to Açu. Is one of the main projects to connect the oil and the gas to the hinterland, and we have also the road at RJ 244 that is going to shortcut. Is going to connect the BR1 to Açu directly, so avoiding going through the cities, through Campos, São João da Barra. So all these are in the National Investment Plan from the Minister of Infrastructure, and we are following very close that. And as a port, of course, we are trying to increase the connectivity. So here is our few projects that is under development. We already reached a feeder project with Norsul that is connecting Açu to Rio in a big barge. So it's more for project cargoes and containers. We already did the first travel 2 weeks ago, and we have another one upcoming. And this is very important to connect the port. Of course, we want to have a direct line of terminals, but this is something that is going to come with the development of Rio de Janeiro state in the near future. And this of course this feeder is gonna help us to bring oil and gas cargo and other cargos and containers that need to be circulated through this area. So it's already moving, and is a very important project for us. We have the aerodrome Norte Fluminense, so we call the heliport. It's under construction and is going to be ready by December of this year. So this is being done by Cabo Frio Airport team group. So this group runs the Cabo Frio Airport. So they already receive a lot of big planes from outside bringing materials, equipment, and also they want to have this airport to link Cabo Frio with Açu, and also do all the offshore logistics through choppers. So we have 20 positions for choppers there. There's going to be available January of this year. So it's a very important project for us as well. And also the roads and the railroad that we are following very close the development, and we hope that we're going to have this soon available for us there. Here is a print screen of the port. So you can see the green area is the reserve, Caruaru Reserve area. We have the two terminals, T1 and T2. The T1 in the right, you have the iron ore and the crude oil areas. So it's dedicated for this area. We have 25 meters drafted there. And we have the T2 terminal is in the middle here between the blue and the red. We have the LNG terminal. So this is the LNG from BW is already, the vessel is already there. So it's ready to dispatch the gas and to the power plants. Yeah, we have the thermal power plants in the red side. We have two moles, south mole and north mole. So it's the north mole where is the LNG vessel is located, and the south mole where have rigs and other flotels and other berthings places available for big vessels. And then we have the cluster of oil and gas, or is all quayside area, very important for to be quayside area. We have almost 50% of the quayside area occupied, so we need to run. to get the other 50 ones. And also our multi-cargo terminal that is run by us and is really now the door for all the items and cargoes and containers imported just through it's a bounded area as well. So it's very important for us. And all the gray area. So we have the aerodrome in the above area there in blue. This will be the place that the aerodrome is constructed. And all this gray area that is available for business. So this is, of course, we believe is going to be all the industries in the near future. So we have a lot to develop. We have a lot of place. We have a lot of opportunities there. So it's a very important moment for us to increase the number of projects there. So we have 10 private terminals that are doing business now in Açu. I already spoke about them. Açu Petróleo is the VLCC capacities. The B Port is a fantastic offshore logistic base. The BP Prumo is maritime fuel. You have Dom, we have Ferroport, we have the LNG terminal, we have Intermur, that is a anchoraging company that is working for the Petrobras and other companies. I have NOV and Technip with the flexible risers fabrication warehouse there. And we have Timut, is the multi-cargo terminal that I spoke before. Yeah, we see ourselves as a one-stop shop for the oil and gas industry. I told you we have a DNA for oil and gas because of the location that we are. So we are the shortest location from the Campus Basin. We are very close to Santos Basin as well. So this makes a lot of difference in terms of logistics cost in the end of the day. So that's why we believe in by the fourth quarter of this year and the following in 2021, 2022 and beyond, we're gonna see a lot of movements of new companies coming in Açu for oil and gas. So it's make a lot of sense to be there, to have the access to the quay and to the water, and so in a lot of area that you can, in the end of the day, you can concentrate all your companies and services there and optimize your costs as well. So this is our multi-cargo terminal. It's open for expansion as well. So we welcome investors for the future. We need to expand this terminal as well. But what we have so far, it's 500 meters of quayside, 13 meters draft. We work a lot of solid bulk, break bulk, containers, and project cargo. All the first power plant equipments came through this terminal, so from outside, from Germany, China, and abroad. So we already have a proven experience there. We have 180,000 of bounded area, no waiting line for berthing, so that's a positive point for us, and door-to-door transport solution. And then I spoke also about the feeder of North Sul, the dedicated container service that we have there. So this is for us it's one of the most important projects we did this year that is really connecting and open Açu to the world. So it's very important for us. And we just developed also a new warehouse solution, mainly for fertilizers and for storage of fertilizers. This was a demand of some clients that are close to campus around the Rio de Janeiro state. So they really want a dedicated warehouse for this kind of storage. So we developed that. You already did the first operation. So this is something that we really want to grow there, have more options there as well. So it's one of other ones that is under developing now. And this is I think it's a very good example how we can attract investors. No, so the thermal power plant, called GNA project. It starts with a joint venture between Prumo, BP, and Siemens, and of course, there are 2 thermal power plants contracted. One is ready, and we just brought a few months ago SPIC from China to farm in the project. So they have now 33% of the power plants 1 and 2. So it's a fantastic example of how ASU is being developed, how ASU is being seen as an attractive investment, and we want to do more like that. So we are open for that. We want to really to push international companies, national investors to go to see, to visit us and develop their projects in ASU with us as well. And of course, we cannot leave behind the sustainability. Yeah, we have a total focus on that. We want to be seen as a green port in the future. So we are developing all the skills to perform that. We have a big focus on safety, security, people, community, governance, and environmental sustainability, business, renewables. We are talking about solar and wind power plants. So and all this COVID-19 months that we live it, we were able to keep our people safe, and we are very glad that we have a big focus on that as a team. And last but not least, this is something that our marketing communication team developed to short the distance between the world and ASU. So it's a very nice 3D travel around ASU. So it's real image. So you can go through one of these codes here, or go to YouTube and look for a ASU experience that you're going to see how we are being developed, and you can sail and drive through all the big projects that we have there so far. So thanks a lot. My contact details are here, and should you have any other questions, let me know. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Continuing, I will give you a brief overview of what Apex Brazil can do to help you from the moment you start considering investing in Brazil through the beginning of operations in our country and all the way to the development of your company's presence in Brazil. But before that, I'd like to answer the most important question for every investor. Why invest in Brazil? First of all, because it's a continental country of 8,500 square kilometers that is very rich in natural resources. It has fertile soil and abundant water for agribusiness, many natural and energy resources, besides the largest biodiversity of the planet. Brazil has a big and diversified industrial park. The industry represents 20.9% of GDP, 70% of exports of assets and services, and 72% of private investments in research and development. Despite the pandemic, for the 5th consecutive month since May, Brazil's industrial confidence index showed an upward trend. Besides being a large consumer market with 210 million inhabitants, Brazil is also a platform for exports to other markets. The financial sector is highly sophisticated and allows strong access to debt instruments as well as domestic and foreign markets. The national legislation does not discriminate against foreign investments. Besides that, the federal government is fully committed to making the regulatory environment even more business-friendly. Brazil has the largest infrastructure portfolio in the world, with hundreds of projects in which you can invest with legal certainty, transparency, and predictability. There are ample openings for private investment in infrastructure since the government has planned more auctions to be held in 2020. It's important to note that Brazil was the 6th global FDI destination in 2019. Moreover, according to the US consultancy firm A.T. Kearney, Brazil is among the 25 most reliable countries for foreign direct investment. And according to the Central Bank of Brazil, in the first half of 2020, the country received a total of $25.3 billion in FDI. The mission of Apex Brazil is to promote Brazilian exports, attract foreign investments, support Brazilian companies to expand internationally, provide market intelligence, provide export qualification, and promote Brazil as a global business partner. Apex has 5 regional offices in Brazil, 9 overseas offices, besides working in close coordination with 121 trade promotion sections of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Currently, Apex is supporting 14,000 companies, which are responsible for 30% of Brazilian exports. In the last 10 years, Apex supported more than 1,300 foreign companies and investment funds, which invested $26.6 billion in Brazil. Apex is the one-stop shop for foreign investors, which is linked to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and works in partnership with the Ministry of Infrastructure and Investment Partnerships Program to promote and facilitate investments in infrastructure. Investors are supported in establishing or expanding operations in Brazil. They have our help in starting a partnership with a Brazilian company and in finding suppliers. Investors can commit capital in Brazilian through funds and companies with our advice. And they can count on Apex custom-made market intelligence for supporting strategic decisions. Apex also supports foreign investment funds seeking opportunities for venture capital and private equity allocation in Brazil, facilitating contact with Brazilian funds, companies, and startups. Apex supports investors in the identification of suitable locations, besides providing general information on potential costs, business environment, and talent pool availability. Using an extensive network, Apex Brazil also acts as liaison between foreign investors and regulatory and local authorities. We arrange one-on-one meetings between investors and public and private local stakeholders, besides organizing investment roundtables. Apex also organizes business seminars like the ones which happened in China in 2019, in India, and in the United States this year. Since the very beginning of this pandemic, Apex has a hot site for supporting Brazilian companies and foreign investors, particularly providing updated and qualified information regarding all the measures introduced by the federal government to overcome the economic crisis. You will find more information on the Invest in Brazil LinkedIn profile, and also on our new investment portal, investinbrazil.com.br. You can download the investment guide to Brazil with relevant and detailed information which will facilitate doing business in Brazil. To conclude, I'd like to note that the Brazilian infrastructure sector has been growing during this global economic downturn, and investing in infrastructure is safe despite the crisis. I'd also like to highlight that foreign investors have showed confidence in Brazil's economy in the long term because we are a resilient country which overcame other crises and will succeed again. Finally, let me state that Apex Brazil stands ready to assist foreign companies wishing to invest in Brazil, a country of millions of people and opportunities. I'd like to remind that if you are interested in more information, we can help you in scheduling bilateral meetings through the email ibi@apexbrazil.com.br. The Apex Brazil investment team will be pleased to help you. Now, continuing with our presentation of projects, I'd like to invite the Executive Director of Grão-Pará Multimodal for our 5th project, Mr. Paulo Salvador. The floor is yours. Mr. Paulo, are you hearing us? I believe your microphone is muted.
Good morning. We will thank Brazil for inviting us to participate in this forum, and we will now start our presentation about Alcântara Port Terminal. A brief summary about our company, Grão-Pará. We came to Brazil in 2010. We started working on this project in 2015. The world by CGLA, Washington.
Mr. Paulo Salvador, we had technical problems with your transmission, so I will start with our next project. So I'd like to invite the director at Alemoa and co-leader at the Alemoa Port Terminal, Mr. Lourenço Santos, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Lorenzo, please,
Can I
you may
start?
begin. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello to all the attendees of this important event. My name is Lorenzo Mexia, and I'm a co-head of the development of Alemoa Port Terminal project. First of all, I would like to thank Apex for this great opportunity of presenting our project to an audience of potential investors in our venture. I would also like to thank ATP, the association we are affiliated, Association of Private Terminals, and Almirante Murilo and Luciana Guerisi for inviting us to this event, which is a great opportunity to show this project. First of all, a brief introduction of the company, the sponsor of this project, Alemoa S.A. Alemoa is a real estate investment company and developer of projects ranging from commercial and residential to logistics properties. The company was the developer of the Alemoa Port and Industrial District. It transformed in plots what it once was a big piece of land that belonged to its founders. Since the 70s, many national and multinational companies were installed in the district. Nowadays, beside other port operations, it became the largest liquid bulk operations cluster in Brazil. To name a few companies installed there, I could say that Petrobras is there, Ultra Group, Oldfield Group, Stolt, and Volpac. Before going further, specifically in the project, I would like to go over through the opportunity of talking a little bit about the TUPE's advantages, okay? Santos Port has 55 terminals operating in its banks, but only 6 are private, which are denominated TUPs, which stands for private use terminals. Alemoa Terminal will be the 7th TUP in Santos, adding 3 more berths to the 18 private berths of Santos, of a total of a current number of 72. The private berths are almost 1/3 of the total berths of the port. The private model TUP is a success in Brazil and is responsible for 65% of the cargo handled on the country's ports. The authorization contract model differs in many aspects from the concession model of public ports. To highlight a few, I would say politics and government changes have no influence whatsoever. Although we are optimistic about this government and we value the infrastructure ministry work so far, we know that public contracts bear the risk of policy changes that could happen every 4 years. Second point, once the authorization is granted by the government, there is no limit in the operating term, and public concessions are usually granted for 25 years with a possible term renewal. Public terminals in Santos have the obligation to hire workforce through agreements with OGMO, which is the workforce entity, which hugely aggravates OPEX of the terminals. In the TUPs, we have much higher flexibility to hire the workforce. Alemoa S.A., the project sponsor, owns 260,000 square meters in the Alemoa district, of which 150,000 square meters are adjoined and at the banks of the port estuary, as you can see by this picture at the end of the presentation. Terminal project was developed in this 150,000 square meters of private area, and it is comprised of 3 berths with 1,000 meters of wharf extension. It has a flexible layout capable to capture demand from different cargo owners. Some important investment highlights. Privileged location in the port of Santos Channel. We are located exactly at the beginning of the port from a highway and railway standpoint. We have a unique road and rail access to our terminal. We have few meters away. We have projected a detour from the main rail access of the port. We have an advanced licensing status, as I will show in the next page. We still believe there's a deficit in the region of port structure. Santos is having records of handling year after year. So the need for new terminals are always very, very present. And we have also a state-of-the-art project with high operational efficiency. We have studied some scenarios with different cargoes. We are a greenfield project comprising of 3 berths, as I already told you, and with a possibility of operations of solid bulk, pulp, or liquid bulk. We've been working on regulatory and environmental licenses over the past years, and it is currently in an advanced stage regarding its licenses. The latest one was the ASV, which is the vegetation suppression authorization. I have a page on the licensing status. Just to name a few of the grantings that we have in these last 10 years that we licensed the project. One of the most important ones, I could say, the installation license that we had granted in 2015 and was renewed in 2018 from the IBAMA, which is the Brazilian Institute of Environment and Renewable Natural Resources. We also had the term of adhesion signed in 2017 with ANTAC, the National Waterway Transportation Agency. In 2019, last year, after an audience with the Minister of Infrastructure, 6 months later, we had granted the declaration of public utility that was sitting on the table of the last governments for over 2 years. We thank the ministry for all this speed on granting this so important document that we were waiting so long. And we had finally the vegetation suppression license that was granted this year, months ago, from the IBAMA also. I will keep the 10-minute time frame. I will show this page, which is one of our scenarios for this terminal. This was our base case layout. We had some other scenarios for our mini port complex. As you can see, we can have 3 different operations here. We have berth 1, berth 2, and berth 3. We have 150,000 square meters adjoined to these berths and to the 1,000-meter linear wharf. But we still have more than 100,000 square meters that could be support areas for this project if it eventually has the need to. We have made important studies, feasibility studies, and an important study of the rail access, which can give us a very efficient terminal for pulp and for grains. Our terminal for liquid bulk, we didn't project railway access for this, only highway access for the liquid bulk. We also have a channel depth that was granted an environmental license for dredging of 40 meters, which can hold different ships, different sizes of ships for all this, the handling of these cargoes that I just mentioned. And finally, we have a flexible layout, since we can deal with different cargo owners, and we're trying at this time to enhance the project, bringing together those cargo owners and financial investors. And we think that upon completion, Alemoa Port Terminal will be one of the largest ports, terminal ports in Santos. This was just a brief description of one of our scenarios. I'm available to have one-on-one meetings or even video conferences to anyone who's interested in studying this opportunity in Santos. So the Apex has our contacts, and we are available for any questions if you might have.
Thank you very much, Lorenzo. And now I will give the floor again to Mr. Paulo Salvador.
Okay. Sharing, onde é que tem aqui o sharing? Okay. So, everyone, are you listening?
Yes, Paulo, you may begin.
Okay. I was saying that we were awarded for the best engineering project 2020 by CGLA in September. We are included in InfraPro Brazil, and our presentation is divided in 3 parts: market developments, Tpa features, and opportunities with Tpa. The development of what we consider the most strategic private terminal on the northern corridor of Brazil exports. Iron ore. Brazil is the 2nd largest exporter of iron ore in the world and will increase its relevance more and more. As you know, Vale is increasing its production in the northern system to 290 million tons per year until 2027. Ports in São Luís are reaching their limit, and TPA will allow for all expected growth while minimizing conflicts. There are huge opportunities to explore new deposits in Pará, Tocantins, and Piauí. We identified an extra production capacity of 160 million tons per year, with whom we are already negotiating. Grains. Brazil is the 2nd largest grain exporter in the world and will increase its relevance more and more also. The Northern Arc is asserting itself as the largest production region, but not yet as exporter. Current investments in FICO and FNS will allow considerable reductions in freight, stimulating the growth of exports through the ports of the north. Market developments. This is a photo of 2020. 8 million tons of grains going up the FNS and 230 million tons of iron ore coming from Carajás. In 22, it will be 40 million tons of iron ore coming from Carajás and 16 million tons of grain going up the FNS. This will increase in 2020 to 63 million tons of grains going up the FNS with the entrance of the FICO railroad and 260 million tons coming from Carajás. And in 2030, we will have 67 million tons of grains going up the FNS and 290 million tons coming from Carajás. All this will create a huge amount of capacity that will go through EFC. San Marcos conditionalities. The installed capacity approaching the limit. Piers, all not all supporting Valemax. Use of common channel in San Marcos Bay. Not operational backup in relation to accidents and constraints. Seasonality in the first half of the year rains a lot. And seasonality agribusiness affecting cargo arrival and size of storage yards for iron ore. Tpa Features. The location of TPA is in West Bank and São Marcos Bay with a maximum current speed of 2 meters per second. This is 60% of the other bank, Ponta da Madeira and Itaqui. And this means lots of safety, high levels of safety. We'll have 60 kilometers shorter than the same railway to Carajás. We have integrated environmental licensing for port and railway, and we have done a formal agreement in 2017 with the Quilombola community. Our deep water of 25 million tons will allow the largest ships in the world. This means, for grains, this can mean up to 40% of discount of economy, between 10 and 15 US dollars per ton. We have done the studies of maneuverability in Denmark, and we obtained maximum safety levels. In the first phase, we can have up to 4 berths, and in the second, up to 8 berths with 405 meters. We have 12 million square meters of useful domain, and the capacity of our yards is 7 million tons, but can be increased up to 15 million tons, which means a dynamic capacity of 400 million tons per year of iron ore. Opportunities. Alcântara Port Terminal and Maranhão Railway as opportunities to solve logistic bottlenecks. The port extension with 8 piers, the depth, natural depth of 25 meters. Load type, first load types will be iron ore and grains, and first phase will have 140 million tons per year of iron ore capacity and 40 million tons per year of grains. In our feasibility study, we only did consider for grains 10 million tons per year. So, opportunities with TPA. TPA can act as backup, allowing recovery of goals and achieving new targets. The railroad at Maranhão will allow prioritizing the transport of iron ore in the EFC. The replacement of trucks by rail and ships up to 2,000 tons will increase the activities of the Northern Corridor with savings in sea freight up to 40%, as I said before. The last 50 kilometers that the railway will be paid in 25 years of use, this allowed by this economy of these 50 kilometers less. And we are now in basic design phase, allowing customization of layout according to needs and requirements. We are in the phase of obtaining licenses for construction, and we expect to start the construction in 2022. Our business model will be the private landlord, where GPM is responsible for basic infrastructures. Infrastructures operators invest in the construction of their own storage and product handling structure, and operate and maintain their own structures, paying port fees. For the rail is similar. Operators operate their own compositions, paying railway fees. The financial modeling of the enterprise elaborated by Alvarez and Marshall was carried out in US dollar. Private landlord capex is $772 million. Alvarez and Marshall reached a huge IRR, as you can see, it's 41% and with very conservative premises. We have a net present value of $4 billion US. Here are our contacts. And we'd like to thank you again, Apex Brazil, and all attendants. You say that you can visit us at www.grãoparamultimodal.com.br. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paulo Salvador. And last but not least, I invite the head of commercial department at Imetami Logística, Mr. Anderson Carvalho, to present the last project.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Roberto. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Very good, very good. I would like to thank you and thank Apex and also Almirante Murilo for this opportunity to present Imetami Logística Porto to investors, important investors in this important event. Can you see, Mr. Roberto, the presentation?
Yes, we see.
Okay, very good. Okay, Imetami Logística Porto is a private port. Okay, it's a greenfield project, but we already started the construction with the earthworks, and we also are preparing everything to start the maritime construction. We are only waiting the authorization from the Federal Patrimony to sign the contracts to be able and authorized to start the maritime construction. I'd like to talk about some important points of the project, okay, of the enterprise. We are the deep water port connecting the East Coast of South America with the road. And we have some important points here. The depth in the project is 70 meters. We have a good turning basin for larger ships. In the project, we have 6 berths with a total quay extension of 2,009 meters. The container terminal capacity will be for 1 million TEUs per year, capable to operate vessels up to 15 1,000 TEUs with 33 container wide, of course limited to 60 meters draft. The grain terminal with capacity of 10 million tons per year and compatible with Cape-size vessels, called Baby Cape or Mini Cape. The general cargo terminal suitable for break bulk and cargo and fertilizers too. We have a second phase projected, okay, like expansion that includes Lng Terminal. Of course, it depends if Imetame win the Brazilian auction. We have a thermal power plant with the previous license with 1.6 gigawatts. With inland links, mainly the rail access, connecting the port Imetame with the main production area in the country, industrial and agricultural. Imetame Logistic Port is an interesting solution for the Brazilian Center-West production. Here you can see the schedule. Our idea is to start the maritime construction as soon as we have the authorization or the contract signed with SPU. And so the construction, the estimates to finalize in July of 2023. We have three main points in the construction: is the breakwater, dredging, and berths. In this construction of these 3 points, we of course will finalize the yard operation too, the construction. About some important information also, you can see the project here. We have the container berth point here, the general cargo berth, business and fuel, and also projects LNG operation or ship-to-ship crude oil also. We are located at the ES 010 State Road. It's a coastline road that crosses the city of Veracruz, Espírito Santo, and it's near to important customs centers in the country. We are also closer to a railway called Vitória Minas that connects Espírito Santo to Minas Gerais, and this railroad is only 3 kilometers far from the Imetame logistic area. And we have planned a railway pair with a high productivity besides the proximity to Vitória Airport too. The enterprise has a privileged location in an industrial area with port facilities in operation. We have here beside us the Jurong shipyard, and also we are closer to Barra do Riacho port, where we have the intention of the government to provide the area administered by Codesa today. We are closer also from an important area that have a federal benefits that's called the Sudene, that is in Linhares City, and so it's a good condition for industries that would like to implement there, and the Imetame Logística Port can be the solution to flow the production in Aracaju. Here you can see some particulars from the port. Our main plan is in the first phase is for container and general cargo, and we have also the option to include the grains. Of course, it depends. We find an investor in this segment of agribusiness, but we are prepared to start this construction in the first phase too. The vessel types, so the types of ship of the project is the new Post Panamax, the container ship with these particulars, okay? It's the bigger one or the next generation of container ship to Brazil. And also considering our project depth, we can receive the vessels of Suezmax and Cape-size vessels for fuel and the Cape-size for agribusiness. With these characteristics, the length of 278.5 meters, the beam of 48 meters and the maximum draft of 16 meters with capacity 120,000 tons. More summit particles of the port. You can here see the infrastructure of the port. Our ports have 1 million square meters of area, 2,340 meters of quay, automated gates is planned, 400 plugs for refrigerated containers, 9 ship-to-shore, superposed Panamax, lifts, and other equipments necessary for container operation and also to general cargo, okay? And of course, the support service is everything we can offer to the clients, okay, to exports and also the service for importation in our enterprise. We can receive the long haul service. Our position is in the middle of the Brazil coast, and so we can be the connection with Brazil to important other countries as China, in Asia, or Europe and United States. Considering our position in the coastline, we can also be a good point for cabotage or feeder vessel too, doing the service for distribution of the export or import containers to the Brazil. Considering the CapEx, we have in the phase 1, the proposed container and general cargo, we are considering 1.2 billion reais. That's mostly approximately to $270 million. And considering including the grants in this CapEx, we have a little bit $300 million. It includes the container quay extension of 1,100 meters with 3 berths, ship-to-shore cranes up to 23 box wide, general cargo quay extension 400 meters, MHC equipment, it's a mobile crane, grains quay extension 600 with 2 berths and ship loader capacity 3,000 tons per hour. Considering the risks, benefits, and exchange rates, the exchange rate scenario, the currency fluctuation risks are inherent to infrastructure projects such as Imetame Port. In our case, we have approximately 50% of the project capex in foreign currency, euro and US dollar. The project brings some possibilities of revenue in dollar. It can mitigate the currency risk. We have also another benefits here that is very interesting to the project is the rate and the reporto. The investment amounts include benefits of average 34% federal and state tax off. Also, we would like to talk about the sustainability structure of the Imetame Group. It's very important. Let me here. We have a multidisciplinary team with environmental engineers, biologists, social economic specialists, and oceanographer too. About licensing process, the full compliance to all conditions, federal, states, and municipality fully attendance. Environmental monitoring programs, previous and permanent monitoring, aiming at environmental impacts prevention and mitigation during Imetame port installation and operation phase. The social responsibility, constant and transparent relationship with all stakeholders, public, power, communities, third sector, clients, and supplier. And I would like to talk about our relation with the community that is very special and good here in Aracruz. Here you can see the main monitoring programs that you already implemented. Okay, it's to attend some conditions of the environmental authority here. Marine turtles and the cetaceans monitoring, oceanographic campaigns, beach monitoring and erosion control, waste and fluid management. And so you can see some photos. It's a real campaigns that's already happened here. About training programs, environmental training campaigns, we also have a good and Rouge program of training here in Metami Group. Environmental aspects and impacts, our employees trainings at the hearing process, specific training programs for operation teams and emergency response brigades. We have also good programs, new wireless that we call in Portuguese Nova Consciência. We have this program that involves a lot of actions in this program. You can see here a photo with some actions that we have the Indians community here. Another photo here is you can see a program that we teach some families to factory soap in bars or liquids, and they sell these products here in front of the company or in supermarkets and the community, and they have a new opportunity of economy or a revenue for the family. Another program, we distribute some kits to the kids during the end of the year, and also the school materials. The amount of in the last year, 19,000 kits we distribute for the kids, and also including some third age peoples. We have a good program here. That is the new one. The name is Reflorescer program. We sow and plant fruits and medicinal trees, contributing to the livelihoods and habitats of the fauna, rescuing the traditional of medicinal use of plants and recovering area of riparian forests. We are committed to do our best to return that nature done for us. Consider my timing with 10 minutes. I send a link and you can see a video of the enterprise Metami Logistic Port that can clarify and give you more information about our project that is important and good project or good enterprise here in Espírito Santo. Here Espírito Santo have a lack of port infrastructure, and Metami is coming to offering to the markets the solution of port infrastructure here in Espírito Santo to operate container, general cargo, agribusiness, and also we can implement the gas operation and crude oil ship to ship. And so you can see this video. In the end of the presentation, you can see my contacts here, and it will be my pleasure to send you, receive your question and answer your email or your self-contact if you can, okay, to give you more information about Metami. So thank you once to Apex, to Mr. Roberto, Almirante Murilo for this opportunity to present Metami Logística Porto to this event and the investors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anderson. Thank you very much to all of our speakers. We realize that all projects represent great opportunities. We can really see that beyond an attractive environment for business, the potential of Brazilian projects is remarkable. Before ending this event, I would like to invite all of you for the next digital investment event planned for 2020 that will happen in October 28th focusing on opportunities in renewable energies in Brazil, specifically on the coming transmission auction that will be held in December 17th, in addition to other projects of electric transmission concessions planned by the federal government. Even after that event, our work to promote and facilitate foreign investments in Brazil will not stop. Make sure to access our LinkedIn profile, Invest in Brazil, and our website, investinbrazil.com.br. Soon we will be able to see our schedule for next year with other great events, hopefully without the limitations that COVID-19 has imposed. Invest with trust and safety. Invest with Apex Brazil. Thanks to all of you who joined us today. We are looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.